If you travel the road southeast from Ranger Station Bravo, we find a small little path heading towards a large rock. There's a green sign off in the distance, but we see a pack of coyotes guarding it. As we get closer, we pick up a new radio signal on our Pip-Boy, and we discover Camp Guardian. The green sign has been altered. Originally it said Mount Guardian Peak, elevation 2,667 feet. But someone probably recently has altered it to say Camp Guardian, elevation really high, population 12-ish. There's also a sticker on it that says, never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups. Taking a look at our Pip-Boy, we can listen to the new radio broadcast.
The camp was attacked. I think I'm the only one left alive. Guardian is down. I repeat, Guardian is down. Requesting backup from any nearby forces. We were attacked by some kind of freak mutants from the caves. Please send backup. Bravo, this is Camp Guardian calling for backup. No sign of the rest of the men stationed here. This is Private Halford requesting backup. Anyone out there? Goddamn leg. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna make it before I bleed out. Those beasts drug the rest of the men away. Oh God, I hope they don't come back for me. Bravo, come in, Bravo. Is anyone out there? Bravo, this is Camp Guardian calling for backup. No sign of the rest of the men stationed here.
If we turn immediately to our right, we find a hollowed-out rock. But beasts? Mutants? It's clear that Private Halford is an NCR soldier. He's trying to get a hold of Ranger Station Bravo, which is just to the northwest. But this must be a recorded message. The recordings loop over and over and over again. Is Halford still alive? How long has this message been playing? Going forward to explore, we find a note, half buried in the dirt and rock. This is a Camp Guardian log page. In particular, this is log page 7, written by Sergeant Banner, not the man we heard on the radio. Okay, we're making good headway cleaning up the paths. With only the 12 of us, I'm amazed we've moved this much rock in such a short time. Kayla and I made it to the top yesterday. The survey team was right. Guardian Peak has one hell of a view, but we still have a lot of work ahead of us. I sent our runner to Bravo to request a radio from McCarran. There isn't much point in having an Overwatch camp here if it takes us at least an hour to sprint to Bravo and report a Legion assault. So that graffiti on the sign was done by the NCR soldiers that moved in here, one of whom must be Private Halford. Looking up the rocks, we see fencing and a path winding up to the top. So the NCR chose to have a lookout point here due to its commanding view of Legion territory, but it sounds like they weren't getting the supplies they needed. Turning around and continuing up, we immediately bump into another note. This one is stuck in the bushes. This is log page 3, also by Sergeant Banner. This place is a mess. Most of the old hiking trails are buried in landslides, and the rest is so dusted you can't tell which direction you're supposed to go. I don't know what the hell the survey team was thinking when they said this was a strategically sound location. At least we were issued plenty of rations and the river has plenty of fresh water. We could eat for months. Let's hope tomorrow brings some headway cleaning this place up. So since this was page 3, Sergeant Banner hadn't yet reached the summit of this mountain, and he didn't know of the view. The view is what made it a strategic location, but at this point he was still working on cleaning up the paths. At length we reach the sleeper steps that go up the crevasse pass. At the top of these steps, nestled in a bush next to some jalapenos, we find the next note. But this is page 18, we're jumping way in the future. We finally got the radio from McCarran. I've set it up on the peak so anyone on Overwatch duty can quickly radio in if the Legion makes a move. I'd like to know which genius back at command decided to send a squad to this location, but didn't think to give us a radio so we could actually call in and attack. Probably another politician's son. Oh man, I can see it already. Another story of NCR incompetence and lack of communication. Let's just hope it didn't lead to the deaths of NCR soldiers. As we continue through the crevasse, we start to pick up enemies on our compass. Scorpions. Creeping forward, we see the gully bridge that goes right over Rad Scorpion Gully. As we get close to the bridge, a bunch of rats appear. Strangely enough, they were non-hostile. I managed to get one or two as they ran by, but they ran across the bridge to attack something else. I hopped up on top of a rock to see what it was. Looks like the rats decided to attack a scorpion, so I just decided to clear them all out. Due north of the bridge on this side, we find an outhouse. There isn't much here, but we do find a couple of brock flowers nearby. Heading across the rickety bridge, we can snipe at rad scorpions in this gully. And at the other side, we appear at a picnic area. We have two ways to go. We can head southwest up some steps, but my hunch is that that's the way we're supposed to go. So let's explore this area first. The campground doesn't have a whole lot. We see some wild-growing plants like some jalapenos. And against some sandbag barricades, we find some explosive crates and some grenades. Going north down the hill a little bit, we see a path that leads down to a target dummy. And right next to this target dummy is a path that leads to a cave. But before we go in this cave, let's finish exploring this area because I don't want to miss anything. So turning around, we can go towards those steps we saw when we see a split. There's a small path going up and to the left. Following it all the way, we find the mouth to another cave. Is this the same cave or a new one? Well, let's head on in to explore. Going in from up here, we find ourselves on a ledge overlooking a large cavern. The cavern is dark, but we do see the shadows of some creatures against the smoke and steam. After killing them, we can hop on down, and it was just a bunch of rats. There's only one path out of here. Following it all the way to the end, we find an exit that brings us right out to that target dummy. Okay, so these two cave entrances were indeed connected, but there wasn't a whole lot in here. With this level explored, we can continue forward by finally going up those steps through narrow bridge gully. Passing through, we see that this gully goes right beneath a bridge that connects to a still flying NCR flag. After killing some scorpions in our way, we find the next note sitting in some brush overlooking Lake Mead. Day 12. We managed to get the rest of the path cleared. Some pre-war fencing was mostly intact, and we were able to set it up as a makeshift barrier on the more dangerous cliffs. I hope none of these jarheads fall off. We found a few cave entrances as we were clearing the rubble. They lead back to each other, with just a single collapsed path which appears to lead down into the mountain. The damn survey team didn't mention any caves. I hope we don't find any more little surprises. Okay, so he's talking about the cave that we just found. And as we learned, there wasn't much in it but rats, and we didn't find any bodies inside, so whatever we're looking for must be ahead of us. Rounding the corner, we pass over the cliff ledge picket path to picnic area number 2. There's no loot in this picnic area but empty bottles, though it does command a great view of the road. But turning around to climb up the hill, we hear some noises. And as we continue forward, our compass just lights up. Goodness, are these all scorpions? How many do we have to kill? Continuing forward, we cross a bridge and kill more scorpions in a nearby camp. And at last we've found Camp Guardian. On the other side of this bridge, we also find the next torn page. This is log page 20 by Sergeant Banner. Day 20. More surprises. Collins came across a cave entrance right behind our damn tent. The survey team should have caught this if they had done a thorough job. I have no idea if anything is in there, but we don't have the manpower to deal with any serious pests. I'm gonna have to have some choice words for Burke the next time I see him. This isn't the first time that idiot skipped over some details while surveying an area. I hope to God we're not sitting on some kind of nest. I'm gonna send in Frakes and Collins to scout the caves tomorrow. If we have to, we'll use explosives to collapse the cave. The camp itself is swarming with rats. The soldiers were having a good old time. Lots of whiskey and Sunset sarsaparilla bottles strewn about. They used these crates as chairs. Lots of cram and meat lying about. And on the crates next to the radio, we find some bottle caps and a Sunset sarsaparilla star bottle cap. Sure enough, turning around and heading north, we find the cave entrance that Banner had mentioned in his note. And disturbingly, we find a puddle of blood lying next to the entrance. Oh, God. Turning around and going towards the tent, we see a trail of blood leading out the door. Inside, we find even more puddles of blood next to these soldiers' bedrolls and footlockers. We can walk away with quite a stash of purified water by looting all of these containers, but sadly all the whiskey had been drunk. Before we explore the cave, let's finish exploring the camp to see if we can find any more notes. Heading out of the tent and turning south-southwest, we find a note wedged between some boards on some stairs. This is day 13. It's been almost a week, And still no sign of a radio from McCarran. I'm sending a runner to Bravo to see if they can spare a handheld or any other radio gear until McCarran can get around to sending the gear I requested. I swear those dumb bastards back at command expect us to use carrier pigeons or something. Oh, my heart breaks for these poor soldiers. We learned from the previous note that they did finally get the radio, but having to send a runner to Ranger Station Bravo just to get a radio to man a recon outpost they were ordered to establish is just insanity. At the top, we killed some more rats, and at the end of this boardwalk, we find another note. This is day 5. The chronology of this is all over the place. We've managed to shovel most of the debris up to the first bridge. This thing looks like a wreck. Thankfully, there were a few wooden shacks around we can dismantle for some scrap to rebuild. I just hope we don't run out of scrap before we finish the trail. Jackson says he heard some kind of howling the other night. It sounded like the wind to me. Well, it could have been the coyotes we killed earlier. This is the summit of the mountain, appearing as the marked location Guardian Peak on our Pip-Boy. Here on top of a crate, we see the radio that they finally got from McCarran. Turning it off and on does nothing. We still pick up the radio broadcast on our Pip-Boy. We see more evidence of the soldiers, trash and bottles everywhere. Either these guys were filthy or something interrupted them unexpectedly. And on the ground, next to a lookout chair, beside a sunset sarsaparilla crate and a pair of binoculars, is page 8. More complaints of strange noises by Jackson. I'm starting to think he still has some unresolved issues after seeing his last squad wiped out by a Legion slaver squad to the south. I sent out a few men to investigate, but they couldn't find anything. I think we should keep Jackson away from the munitions until he calms down. Nearby, we find the pre-war scenic overlook with a great view of Lake Mead. On the ground near to some sandbags are 2 big ammunition canisters, and strangely enough, a bedroll placed outside, not in one of the tents. Now, before going inside the cave, I wanted to be absolutely sure that I found every single note so that I didn't miss some of the story. And I'm glad I did, because retracing my steps, I found a few more that I missed. Back down below the sleeper steps next to Crevasse Pass, I found another one of these notes inside a bush. This was day 15. The handheld is working well enough, and we finished building steps up the steeper sections of the path. We can finally move the rest of our gear to the top. Last night, Jackson came screaming into the tent, swearing up and down he saw shadows moving in the water. I know legionaries are known to be fast runners, but swimming across the river? I sent half of the men in pairs to search the area, but again we came up empty-handed. I'm starting to think Jackson is unstable and may need counseling. I'll request a replacement when we get the radio from McCarran. Poor Jackson suffering from PTSD, but is he making it all up, or did he really see something? Another note I missed is lying right on the sleeper steps themselves. This is day 19. Okay, now I am starting to hear noises. During my watch last night, I definitely heard splashes down on the water. I requested an additional survey from McCarran, but they blew it off as nerves. But fish don't make that much damn noise. I sent down half of the squad with lamps, but they couldn't see anything. We can't find any other openings. Maybe I've caught a little crazy from Jackson. I wish we had some cat eye. Can't see anything at night. The final one is sitting in a bush right before we reach the cliff ledge picket path to picnic area number 2. This is day 14. It's been a week and still no sign of a radio from McCarran. At least Bravo was nice enough to give us a handheld so we can relay to them in the meantime should Caesar try anything. Halford will get the radio set up if and when it finally arrives. For now, he is in charge of the handheld and daily reports to Bravo. Ah, that explains why turning off the radio at the summit didn't turn off Halford's radio broadcast. He's got a handheld radio, which means maybe he's still alive. Now we must go into the 3rd cave entrance that we found behind the camp. The cave is pitch black. I had to use my Pip-Boy light just to see where I was going. Going down the path, we find one large room with a box on the ground covered in C4 explosives, a combat knife, and a pistol lying on top. Next to the crate is a splattering of blood, and a lantern has been tipped over, but it's still lit. Whatever happened recently. We remembered from the notes that the sergeant had planned to collapse these tunnels in case they came upon any trouble. Sounds like that's exactly what they were in the process of doing when something happened. There is one exit out of this room. Going down, we follow along a really long, darkened path until at length we find something on the ground. What is that? That's the body of Looks like a lake lurk. What's a lake lurk doing in this cave on top of this mountain? Creeping down, we see a lantern on the ground and... oh, he's still alive. We see a blood path leading from the lake lurk to Private Halford, and thankfully he's still with us.
Hey, over here. Oh, thank God. I didn't think I'd ever see another human face down here.
Boogity boogity boo.
Ah! You sick bastard, I could have shot you. You must be the backup I've been calling for.
Well, no, but I heard your broadcast and I'm here to help.
Thank God. Hoped someone would come eventually, but where are the rest of your men?
You think I need more men to get this job done? This is it, buddy.
Shit. Do you have any damn idea what lives in these caves? We need to get out of... We need to go now!
Are you okay?
I managed to kill that thing, but not before it mangled my leg all up. No way I'm walking out of here like this. I've been keeping quiet and hoping they don't realize one of their buddies is missing. We need to get out of here before they come back.
What killed the other troopers?
I don't know, some kind of man-fish freak like the one I killed over there. I'd heard fishermen spin old tales of lake lurks swimming in the water. I always thought they were just bullshit mermaid stories.
How did you kill that thing?
With my bare hands. I would have shot it, but I was cleaning my gun when they swarmed the camp. The ugly bastard knocked me down and started dragging me down into these caves. I managed to get my knife out and get a good throw into his back. Once he was on the ground, all it took was a bit of choking and punching to finish him off.
All right, goodbye.
Great, just leave me here then. Please, buddy, you gotta help me. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna last with my leg like this.
Now, the poor guy is clearly wounded. We can fix him up by passing a medicine check, though my skill isn't good enough. I think I've got a dull needle and some twine in one of my pockets.
Whoa there, buddy. What you're suggesting is downright archaic. I think my tourniquet will work for now, but I still can't walk like this. If I had a doctor's bag, I could probably fix it up myself.
Or we can go ahead and give him a doctor's bag.
Thanks a lot, Doc. I think I should be able to walk out of here now. I don't want to risk running into a pack of those freaks alone, though. Could you escort me out of here?
We have 3 choices. We can say, hey, you're free to leave. The way up is clear.
Great. I'll start heading back to California now. I'm not about to let myself get killed by future NCR incompetence. If you find my friends, please return their dog tags to the NCR. People need to know what happened here. And if they won't listen, do what you can to make them listen. The dead need to be avenged.
Whoa, why the rush to leave? Why don't we clear these caves and look for your friends?
I know, but now that I can see the way out, I'm not so sure. I'd rather not join my dead buddies anytime soon.
All right, well, have a safe trip. And with that, he jumps up and runs off. Well, he sure made use of the information we gave him, but maybe we can get something more out of this guy. We can say, hey, that's a nice gun you got there.
You can have it if you get me out of here alive. I won't have a use for it when I get back to California.
All right, but we need to clear these caves first.
Are you crazy? No way in hell am I going deeper into those caves. You haven't seen what they did to the other troopers, and I'd rather not find out why they took all of the bodies.
Look, if we don't clear the caves, your friends' deaths will be for nothing. Can you live with that?
All right, you have a point. They were good men and deserve better. Can't guarantee I'll be much help against their numbers, but I'll do what I can. Chances are we won't get out of here alive anyway.
Let's get moving.
Lead on.
He jumps on up and joins us as a temporary companion.
Keep it down, we don't want to alert the freaks.
Now, this cave is probably one of the most elaborate systems of tunnels that I have seen yet in Fallout New Vegas. If I were to try and give you the play-by-play navigation of this system, it would get really confusing. There are 3 different entrances and exits, 2 large wings, one of which has a variety of circular paths that go up and down, making it a maze. So I'm just going to focus on the highlights of what we find here. The bulk of what we find are weapons and ammunition that fell off of the NCR trooper corpses as the lake lurks dragged them deeper into the cave. We know that this cave must connect to the water somehow because we remember from the letters that the sergeant in Jackson kept on hearing noises down from Lake Mead. The private told us that he was surprised in his tent while he was cleaning his gun, and we saw that the other troopers were interrupted while setting up explosives. So the lake lurks must have originated from somewhere deep in this cave, rushed the soldiers setting up explosives, and then rushed the camp to drag the soldiers back inside. We need to find the watery entrance that the lake lurks use to access this cave and see if we can retrieve the bodies of the soldiers. Now, if we take the correct path that splits to the left, the path winds around, circling a large chamber. There are a couple of places where we can step out onto a ledge that overlooks this chamber and then snipe at the lake lurks from a distance. In this way, it's possible to clear most of them before we reach the ground floor. We find the first body upon reaching the first of two large interior chambers. After clearing this of lake lurks from the windows where we sniped from earlier, we find one exit, a tunnel going south. Here we can kill some more lake lurks, and it's here where we find the first body. We don't find any weapons or ammunition. Remember, we saw this scattered all over the cave we just explored, but we do find an NCR dog tag. Remember, the dog tags are what the private wants us to collect to bring back to McCarran. Heading down the path lit green with glowing fungus, we find the second corpse with a dog tag, and then right next to him is the third corpse with the third dog tag. This leads to the primary chamber where we can kill more lake lurks. It's really hard to see them in the darkness. The light from my Pip-Boy doesn't reach far enough. I was tempted to use cat eye or ghost sight here, but it would have made the light sources way too bright, which would have been annoying for a video. After killing the lake lurks we do see, we can go back and loot this fourth corpse where we find another dog tag. In the middle of this room, we find the bulk of the company. 6 of the soldiers' bodies are piled up in this pile, right next to some of the mirelurk eggs and a pack Brahmin. After looting the dog tags, we find a path leading down to the water, which presumably connects to Lake Mead. Here we find a few more lake lurks to kill. At the very end, the water gets deeper and goes under the rock. Putting on our rebreather and swimming through, we find an exit to Lake Mead. Without a rebreather, we'd have to surface on the other side quickly to avoid drowning, but as my companions all drifted up one by one, I didn't see the private. Where did he go? Where's the private? Going back inside, I see him just swimming here, and he seems to be getting stuck on the ceiling. Seems like he doesn't want to exit this way. Or maybe there are more lake lurks here that we haven't killed yet. So instead of leaving this way, I'm going to retrace my steps to see if I can find an exit that the private prefers. We do find a few more lake lurks that we missed earlier, and the private gets excited.
Ha! How do you like that, you sons of bitches?
Climbing up through one of the tunnels, I'm getting lost in this maze. But eventually I found a new cave exit that I haven't previously discovered yet. As we get close, the private turns and addresses us.
Thanks for getting me out of there. I better get started back to California.
Hey, didn't you say I could have your rifle before you go?
Sure enough. You got me clear of this mess. Here you go.
Well, have a safe trip.
If you find my friends, please return their dog tags to the NCR. People need to know what happened here. The dead need to be avenged.
With that, we get Halford's note, a pretty standard service rifle, nothing special about this gun, and a new schematics, dog tag fist. Halford's note reads, I've found it possible to create a sort of makeshift weapon using all of the dog tags I've been collecting over the past month. One of these days, the NCR is going to pay for their continual mismanagement and idiotic bravado. On the backside of the note, we find a schematic drawing of the dog tag fist weapon. Heading out this exit, we find ourselves on a ledge overlooking Lake Mead, and there's no way down without jumping. Well, this isn't useful, so much for that. I went back and made sure to explore every nook and cranny to make sure I didn't miss anything, and I didn't. Those are the only entrances and exits, and that was all of the unique loot. Now, I got really upset by this encounter. The private was right, as was the sergeant. The sergeant was complaining in his letters that we found strewn all over the place, and the private wanted to make sure that we did something so that the NCR would stop mismanaging this war. So I went back to Camp McCarran, and I tried to talk with a variety of people, but no new dialogues appeared. I even went to Colonel James Shue, and he didn't have anything new to say. I went to Ranger Station Bravo, which was mentioned many times in the notes, but they didn't have anything to say. I went to the embassy at the Strip. They didn't have anything to say, and I went to Camp Forlorn Hope. But Major Pilati didn't have anything to say. So sadly, we can't fulfill the private's wish and let people know about what happened here. However, we can use these dog tags in crafting the dog tag fist. We can walk away with around 11 or so dog tags if we find and loot every body in the cave. Checking out the new schematic recipe in our workbench, we see that it requires 20 dog tags to make one dog tag fist, which is an insane number of dog tags. That's 10 dog tags per fist, which means we've got 2 dog tags wedged between 2 fingers and 3 dog tags wedged between 2 fingers on each hand. That's a whole lot of dog tags to be squeezed between your fingers. Instead of crafting the dog tag fist, we can find Recompense for the Fallen, a unique dog tag fist weapon that we find at Cottonwood Cove. This unique item does way more damage than the dog tag fist we can craft. It does 5 more damage than the dog tag fist, coming in at 25, which brings up the DPS to 47.4 compared to the dog tag fist's 31.6. That said, you may not want to get this weapon if you're choosing to side with the Legion and you don't want to steal from them, in which case crafting one with the schematics is your only choice. The Dog Tag Fist and the Recompense of the Fallen share the same model, and even though it takes 20 dog tags to craft, the model only shows 3 in each hand. Also, the name on the dog tags belong to the exact same person, Sergeant James Marish from the 452nd Battalion in Irvine, California. He has an O-negative blood type. So either there were 6 NCR soldiers with exactly the same name serving in the same battalion with the exact same blood type, or Sergeant Marish had 6 sets of dog tags, or, and more likely, it's just a simple oversight. Now we do have to choose between crafting these dog tags or turning in the NCR dog tags at Cottonwood Cove if we side with the Legion, or at Camp Forlorn Hope if friendly with the NCR. We can take them to Quartermaster Mays.
Hey, you've been a big help. I wanted to give you something for helping me out. It's not much, but here you go.
Where we can get 2 bottle caps per dog tag.
You're welcome. Enjoy.
And if we accept his additional reward, we can get 6 beer and an additional 100 bottle caps. This is what I chose to do instead of using them to craft the weapon, as turning the dog tags into the NCR will cause them to get filed, which is going to force the military to list them as killed in action and create a report recounting what went on. This fulfills the private's request of making sure that people know what happened here. None of this incidentally happens in the game. I'm just assuming that that would happen in a bureaucratic organization like the NCR. And that is the full story of Camp Guardian and Help for Halford. Another tragic example of NCR mismanagement. It almost makes me think that Father Elijah was right when he said, after we met him at the Sierra Madre, that the NCR has people to spare. When human life is in abundance like this, it becomes expendable. It's no longer precious. And when you have a bunch of pencil pushers in a bureaucracy making life and death decisions, you can have someone make a stupid decision that leads to the entire death of a company just because he was really tired at the end of a workday and wanted to finish up his work so he could go on home, or maybe he was meeting someone at the bar at the Strip. They were going to have some drinks and he didn't want to be late, so he just finished his work, filed it, and moved on for the day. Stuff like that can lead to situations that we find these poor soldiers in, where the NCR signed off on the reconnaissance, but they show up to find that it hadn't properly been reconnoitered. If it had, the NCR would have known about the lake lurks in Lake Mead, would have known about the different caves leading to Lake Mead, and could have prevented the death of 11 NCR soldiers at Camp Guardian. This "it's somebody else's job" attitude is apparent all over the place. It's the same at Ranger Station Bravo. The private had been radioing to Ranger Station Bravo with his handheld device for God knows how long. That's the radio broadcast that we picked up on. Ranger Station Bravo knew that they were there. They're the ones who gave him that handheld device. Did they not pick up his signal? Did they pick it up and just ignore it? If they didn't pick it up, didn't they think it was strange that radio reconnaissance had stopped from Camp Guardian? If they did think that was unusual, why didn't they say something or take any action? Because it's always someone else's job, not my responsibility. This attitude, I think, infects many of the officers who make decisions in the NCR, and it's the greatest weakness of this faction. And it's such a shame. Thanks for watching, everyone. We're going to be learning more about the NCR and some of the other factions like the Followers of the Apocalypse in upcoming videos. But what are your thoughts on this sad little side quest? What do you think this experience says about the NCR as a faction? Do you like the dog tag fist weapon? Did you use it in your own gameplay? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I publish a new Fallout video 6 days a week on a wide range of Fallout topics spanning all of the games. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss my next video, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. And if you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. Patreon subscribers get access to a private channel on my Discord server, as well as a bunch of other cool Oxhorn perks. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with a brand new video.